Well, hi viewers, here we are in the Royal Oak at Charlton, and today we're very privileged to have with us none other than Larry Page. Now Larry Page, if you don't know this gentleman, you should do. He's the legend when it came to the Troggs. Larry was the man who actually discovered the Troggs. Larry was the man who actually went to America and found Wild Thing for the band. We're not far from White Cottage where the Troggs started, and Larry has very kindly come down to Andover to have a bit of lunch, have a few glasses of wine and talk about the band. And with Reg back in the charts, #1 with Love Is All Around, and the Troggs have suddenly burst in with a new album produced by Larry Page at number 25. We thought it was a fitting thing to do, to bring Larry down. So I'm just going to sit down here and have a few words with Larry. So, what's it like to be back in Andover?
It's different, isn't it? No, I have popped back from time to time. No, and Andover's very special to me.
So where did it all start? Come on, and you tell the Andover people where the Troggs started from.
Well, the Troggs started basically because I had the Kinks in the early 60s with You Really Got Me and all those hits. And the Troggs came to see me, and I told them to come back a year later because I was tied up with the Kinks. And they came back a year to the day with their version of You Really Got Me, which was quite fun. But I liked Reg and I liked the boys, and we decided we'd look around for material for them.
So where did you go to find this record, which was legendary, obviously?
Well, I don't think it was a question of going to look for something. What happened was, because Reg was writing great songs like Lost Girl, and one of my favourites is still The Yellow in Me. But I was in America promoting then what was called the Larry Page Orchestra, and we had a hit record out there. And I was in a publisher's office in New York, and I was introduced to Chip Taylor, who was John Voight, the actor's brother. And he'd written Wild Thing, and it had already been recorded by about 5 people, and nothing had happened. And when I heard it, I decided that, I could definitely do it with Reg and the boys. So that's what we did. We brought it back, and we recorded that and With a Girl Like You. And it was a toss-up of which one we went with first. There was a lot of pressure on me to put With a Girl Like You out first. But my feeling was, if we didn't put out Wild Thing, we wouldn't have made the impact. So that's what we did. And With a Girl Like You followed in as #1 as well.
So what year would have that have been, Larry?
66.
I mean, I can remember in those days, there weren't that many bands around. I've always wanted to ask you is, how come you picked the Troggs? Because it's a pretty raw sound and very sort of Hampshire sound. I mean, how did you ever come to choose the Troggs?
Because I liked the boys. I really liked Reg.
Was it the sound you liked? Was it?
No. I liked the boys and I liked the sound. And even now, if I go to see bands, and I still go to see a lot of bands, I can hear the greatest sound under the sun. But if I don't like the people, I'm not interested. I like Reg, I like Ronnie, I like Chris, and I like Pete Staples, and that was it.
You already had the Kinks then, though, did you?
Yeah.
So it's quite a raw sound. You've just got one bass, a guitar, drums, and Reg.
Yeah. And I'm still looking now at 3 pieces and that kind of situation. No, it's you've got to. It is like a marriage. If it doesn't get on, then fine, okay, you divorce. And I divorced the Kinks, and I divorced the Troggs. I got back together with the Kinks, so they came back to me, and the same thing happened with the Troggs. If you've got a working relationship and it works, fine. That's the way to do it.
So tell us about those magic days in '66 when Wild Thing went into the charts. It must have been pretty exciting.
It was very exciting. I mean, I remember hearing it. First time I heard Wild Thing on the air, I was in East Grinstead in Sussex, just driving along the road. And they're the things that you remember. Then I remember that Jimi Hendrix was looking for something to play in America. And the thing he chose was Wild Thing. We were turned down in America. Everybody thought it was rubbish. And we kept persevering, and I got a record deal out there. And from being rubbish, it became like the national anthem. And I don't think there's anybody anywhere in the world now that they don't know Wild Thing.
It's played in baseball stadiums across America, isn't it?
Yeah, everywhere. I mean, today, You've got like Ryan Giggs, Man United. He was asked which song would he run out on the pitch to if he had the choice, and it was Wild Thing by the Troggs. I mean, everybody knows Wild Thing.
I can remember it came out on the old Fontana label, the old blue label to start with. Is that right? And then you formed Page One Records. Is that right?
Well, to start off with, it was a Page One production on Fontana, but nobody really took it seriously. See, I've always gone for records that really people either, if people say to me, you know, we like that record or that's a nice record, you can forget it because it's not going to happen. If people say we hate it or we love it, then you're in with a chance. And a lot of people hated it, as they did. You really got me, but they're the ones to go for.
So what happened next? You had this big record, Wild Thing, and then along came another composition.
Well, then we went with A Girl Like You, which went to #1. Then we reverted to Chip Taylor again with Any Way That You Want Me. Then we had quite a string of them with Give It To Me, I Can't Control Myself.
Yeah, I can remember in the Andover paper, and it said that Troggs are #1 in America and #1 in England. Do you remember that?
Yeah, and that's only ever happened to about 5 artists in the whole of the music industry. That they've been #1 both sides of the Atlantic with different records. So we have Wild Thing #1 in America, and With A Girl Like You #1 here.
Tell me about the legendary Troggs tapes. Our presenter and sales director Tony Murray has figured on that. Steady. Have you heard of Tony Murray?
Heard of him, yeah.
Because Tony came originally via Elton John and all those guys, and I think he opted to play for the Troggs instead of Elton John. Is that right?
No, Tony was in a band that I had a hit with called the Plastic Penny, and we had a big hit with a song called Everything I Am. The Troggs tapes, in fact, happened when they decided that they would produce their own records, and as you know, all it is about 40 minutes of argument and the odd F word and other words, which is now legendary. But the only nice thing about it was when they said they wouldn't take any notice of anybody, and somebody said, would you take notice of Larry Page? And in unison they said yes, because he wouldn't let you do this, he wouldn't let you do that, he wouldn't let you do... And they were right, as it happens. See, the industry now has changed. When you think... I saw George Michael on television the other day about how he's being made a slave. Poor fella. He's earning millions and millions, and they said, well, why don't you just make a record for Sony, give it to them as a parting gift, and see if you can get out of the contract? And he said, well, it'll take me a year to make, right? The Troggs' first album was done in a day.
Tell me how long it took to make Wild Thing.
A couple of hours, I suppose.
A couple of hours, absolutely staggering, isn't it, really?
Well, it's not. If you think, I mean, that is the thing, you see. I remember when bands started, it was a normal thing that you had a 3-hour session and you were expected to do an A-side and a B-side. But then bands started saying, oh, we want a whole day to make a record, you know, which was outrageous. And I remember Reg coming to see me and saying he'd heard about this, you know, that bands were having a day. And he said to me, regarding our next record, how long have we got in the studio? So I said, how long's the song, Reg? And he said, about 3.5 minutes. And I said, you got it. But it's changed, you know, it's all gone silly now. See, what you hear of the Troggs, you'll hear a live performance. Now they take like a year or more to do an album, and nothing is really live, nothing is genuine. I mean, music should speed up. It should be live. Nothing does now. Everything is as is life, I suppose.
You had the Larry Page Orchestra, and suddenly we hear this rumour about the Troggs recording with this enormous American band who Reg thought was a record label called REM, and you took them down to Athens in Georgia.
Yeah, which I may say is very, very like an Andover situation. It's a wonderful little town, and I went out there and I met with REM, and I knew a little bit more about them than Reg, but I flew out there and met with them, and everybody said to me, well, don't expect too much because they're known as being sort of quirky. But I met them. I went there for a 3:30 meeting on like a Tuesday, and I stayed there for 10 days, and we got on fantastic. And then I took the boys over, and we put the album down, and it was fun.
They were big fans of the Troggs. They did Lovers All Around already. They'd already done Lovers All Around, hadn't they?
Yeah, and I mean, I went to see them, and I saw them perform it live on several occasions. I mean, the first night I got there, they took me to a club to see another band play, and we all stood at the back. And then they went. They said, "Excuse us for a few minutes because we want to go to say hello to the stage," and the crowd went mad. And they said, "We're just going to do one number for our friend Larry Page, legendary, blah 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 blah," and they went into Wild Thing, which was unreal. And they're big fans, but apart from that, they're nice people. They really are. They're wonderful, wonderful, as the Americans would say, human beings. But they enjoy what they're doing. If they were here now, they'd be in the pub and they'd have the guitars out and they enjoy music. That's why people say, when are they going to tour? And maybe they will tour next year. But touring isn't the important thing. They don't like big stadiums. They like to be with their friends, and they like, just playing in little venues.
So could Athens, Georgia be... could it twin with Andover, do you think? Is it the same sort of town, or is it...
Yes, I do. Yeah. It's a nice place, and they've got... You find, like, the last album was called... there's like a little Joe's Cafe restaurant there, called Weaver D, the guy who owns it. And when you go in there, they say, "Oh, this is Larry," and he goes, automatic. And his logo is Automatic for the People. And they called the album Automatic for the People because of this little Joe's Cafe. Now, Weaver D is earning a fortune out of merchandising, the restaurant. And they'll give, like, the T-shirt merchandising to someone else locally, and it's a whole villagey atmosphere. They spread it around, as I'm sure the Troggs do.
Well, there used to be an old cafe in Andover called Gill's Cafe in the London Road, but I don't think it's really come to that height of stardom. But anyway, this recent resurgence with the Troggs, Reg, corn circles, UFOs...
I tried doing it about a year ago with the idea of bringing out the album, and we couldn't get the interest. And I kept trying, and now we've put the thing together. And Polygram TV have put an advertising budget of like 100,000 behind it, and we've charted first week. But I don't think you can't do it unless the material is there, and I think the records are there. I think they're good, and obviously the public feel the same way. Go out and buy a few copies.
I must admit, the sound on this one, I played it yesterday in the car, and the sound is incredibly crisp and clear, unlike some of the old releases on these budget albums, which haven't been quite so good, I would have thought.
Well, I think that's the sad thing. I mean, you get a lot of people now putting out albums that you can go and get the CD for like $2.29, and they are rubbish because the mastering is rubbish, everything is rubbish. But we've controlled this one right the way through, and it's a good album.
Yeah,
we've got 25 tracks on there. I mean, most albums you go out and buy, you've got like 12 tracks, 16 tracks, but we've gone to the maximum that we can get on the CD.
Yeah, I think Tony Murray plays on a few of them. Congratulations to Tony there. Summertime, I think, is a great record.
Talking to me about the royalties. Yeah.
But I think I was talking...
Check's in the post, Tony.
Say that again?
The check's in the post.
But I was talking earlier about Chris's Gretsch guitar in there from the early days, and you produced that. You were the man that was responsible, and I think that's absolutely fantastic. And here we are, almost 30 years later. There's a coffee for Larry. And so what do you think? I mean, in retrospect, it's almost 30 years since all this happened.
I think it's wonderful. I mean, in actual fact, we've applied today to go into the Guinness Book of Records as the longest gap between a rock band between chart entries, because it was 27 years, August the 5th, 1967, that the Troggs last had a hit album. So it's wonderful, but it just goes to show that if you've got good material, it will keep going, and hopefully that it'll be going in the next 27 years.
Reg is into UFOs, and it's all going. How do you think this is going to change the guy, Reg? Will he always be the same? I mean, you've known him as long as anybody. What do you think? How is Reg now? Is he sane? People want to know if Reg is sane. Has he gone crazy about UFOs? I'm sure he hasn't. We've been doing the UFO show for almost a year. But Larry, what do you think?
Well, yeah, I don't think it's a bit like do you believe in God, isn't it? I think anybody that calls Reg an idiot at this stage of the game is jumping the gun. I think you've just got to wait and see.
Yeah, hopefully we may be the first television company to record a UFO landing. But I think it's amazing. It's done wonders to TownTV. We've had a great time doing the UFO shows, and as I said, Larry knows Reg more than most people. So a final word on this whole subject, the Troggs.
Yeah.
Final word.
No, I think the answer is keep looking to the sky, keep looking at the charts, and please go out and buy the records.
Well, thanks for talking to us. I do appreciate you coming down to Andover. Thanks a lot, Larry. Thank you.